Good evening, trustees, community members, and staff. Welcome to the Parent Involvement Committee meeting of the Peel District School Board for the year 2023 to 2024 school term. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be posted on the Peel District School Board website for future viewing. My name is Stacey Ann Brooks.
And I'm Saria Talat, co-chair of the Parent Involvement Committee. We now call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the Parent Involvement Committee meeting. Now, our agenda number 2, acknowledgement of traditional lands.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
We will move now to our next approval of agenda. Is there a mover and a seconder for the approval of agenda?
I do.
Seconder? All in favor? Carried. The agenda is approved.
Our second item on the agenda is the declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared? Seeing none, we will move on with the agenda.
Well, next is approval of minutes. The October and November meeting minutes are here for your consideration. Is there a mover and a seconder for the approval of the October and the November meeting minutes?
I do.
Seconder? Carried. All in favor. The October and November meeting minutes are approved.
Item number 4, the delegations. Currently, there are no delegations. So we move to item number 5, PIC updates and reports. Our first item to review is the 5.1 School Council Draft Policy Consultation. I call upon Elizabeth England to lead us in this discussion.
This is the approval of the minutes, Chair?
No, 7.1.
Perfect.
7.1.
Perfect. I'm just reading over it. 7.1. Full council draft policy consultation oral.
Elizabeth, just turn that.
Oh, would you like me to turn my microphone on? So sorry. For the online people. So sorry, everybody. Consultations for the Parent Involvement Committee will take place at a closed meeting as for PIC consultations. This will be arranged shortly. The public consultation process is now available for 4 school board policies. The public school board process is that all community members are invited to review the following policies and share their feedback through an online survey from now until January the 4th, 2024. The policies are the school council policy, the flexible school boundaries policy, the procurement policy, and the draft abuse of protection policy. All these policies are in draft form. The Peel District School Board values the input and feedback of staff, students, families, and the Peel District School Board community to inform the development and review of our policies. Community engagement is critical to identify how the policies are working, where the systemic barriers or biases exist, and how the barriers can be removed, and how the board can improve the outcomes and experiences for students and staff. So again, it is available now on the Peel District School Board webpage, and we can link to that in the minutes. And we will be holding a closed consultation process as per PIC process for the school council policy and the flexible boundary policies.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are there any questions from the members of the committee?
I have a question. Elizabeth, you mentioned about these surveys. Will there be detail coming after the meeting in some time shortly, or it's already been there to do so?
Thank you, and through you, Chair Brooks. Currently, the surveys were posted, they went live yesterday. So also in the all schools, so there has been communication regarding this in the all families email, which just came out, I believe, a couple of hours ago, and is being publicized here, and has also been publicized on Peel Board social media.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? Online? Seems there is no more question. Is there a mover and a seconder for receiving this information?
I do.
And second by Shazia. Thank you. All in favor, and it's carried. We move to agenda 5.2. Flexible boundary draft policy consultation. Sorry, that was just addressed by Elizabeth together with the school council draft. Thank you, Elizabeth. So we'll move to 5.3. School council emails. I called upon Elizabeth to lead us in this discussion once more.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. So at our last PIC meeting, there was a request made to receive more information from the Learning Technology Support Service regarding the school council's emails. And I will share that information with the group. And then I will share an amendment that was communicated in a system memo to both school administrators and to school council chairs yesterday. So first, I will share the information from Learning Technology Support Service. So regarding the school council email accounts, there's a level of risk that is inherent to having shared accounts that don't have multi-factor authentication. Since January the 1st, 2023, there were 51 incidents logged against school council email addresses. The types of risks that were seen were unlikely travel, 2 logins from 2 different locations in a short time period, which may indicate that the account is compromised or that multiple unknown people have access to the account. Unfamiliar sign-in properties, which indicate that the accounts are being logged into from a new environment, a different IP address, device, domain, etc. Anonymized iPad address, which indicates that there's a non-Peel VPN or Tor browser in use, which is quite often a tactic used by attackers. An anomalous token, which is suspicious characters in the login token, which is quite often a tactic used by attackers. There are, for example, certain schools in the last 30 days from when I received this information that would indicate attempted compromise. In one school, there were 609 attempts. In another school, there were 389 attempts. And another school, there were 102 attempts. And these attempts were all made on school council email addresses. Looking at the data, LTSS saw 109 council email addresses that were logged in since September 1st. Being anonymous, there is no indication of who logged into those addresses. So given that we have 259 schools and there were 109 logins to school council addresses, that means by late October, there were 150 addresses that have not yet been accessed by any school council members. That means that the great number of email addresses that are provisioned are not used, and therefore they are a prime target for cyber attack. It also means that our DL distribution list, currently used to communicate with school councils, is not being received by many school councils. So currently, we will be working in partnership with communications to have a new school council news section on both the main page of the Peel School Board website and on each school's website to communicate news. Based on that information, we worked collaboratively as a board to ensure that there was an amendment that would meet the needs of school council members who wanted to regularly use school council email addresses, and also to address the quite serious cybersecurity issues which I just outlined. So in response to this, school council chairs are welcome to continue using a personal email address or to create their own email address specifically for council use if preferred. However, there is also a process to request an individualized school council email address. This process will be done through making a request to school principals, who will be required to enter a request to Learning Technology Support Services to have an individualized school council chair email address. Each year, to go with the election cycle, the individual school council chair email address will expire, and to ensure that the Peel District School Board addresses the cybersecurity issues, each individual school council chair email address will require multi-factor authentication to be put on each account. There's a format for each account, which will be first name, last name, school name, council@peelsb.com. And the same level of technical support for this account would be available as was available for the generic school council accounts. If there is any issue with the accounts, we would invite the members of the school council who have requested to use that individual account to contact their school administration. So there is a link in the memo where school council chairs who would like to request the individualized school council account would make sure that their principals would fill that out, and then that account would be issued to them by Learning Technology Support Services, quite similar to how the regular shared school council account was previously implemented. So we're hoping that that is really listening to the needs of our school council members who have expressed concern over the discontinuation of the accounts, and at the same time addressing all of the cybersecurity issues previously outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that useful information and updates. Any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair, I have some questions and comments to make. So I appreciate the details shared by Elizabeth. Thank you for that. So the observation I have made in past few days, actually since yesterday this memo came out, what is the proposed solution for school council members to deal with the information transitioning from year to year? Because the communication done, let's say, in one calendar year, and there will be new potential co-chairs or chair for that specific school. How this information will be carried on to the next person. And then I have other questions just after that. If you go one after.
Elizabeth can take that.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. School councils are required to keep minutes of every meeting. So in the Education Act, Policy 612/00, it is requested and actually outlined that school councils must keep school council minutes on file for 4 years. So given that these minutes should be kept on file for 4 years, that is an excellent way for school council chairs to ensure that they are up to date on what has happened in past school council years.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Madam Chair, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
In terms of the information which is not, which is more than, which cannot be recorded completely, but specifically on the minutes, means maybe collaboration between two council, schools, or some stakeholders, guest speakers, some different organization, third party, which is being invited, hosted to the council members for that, to that specific school. How this information can be transferred or carry on for the next calendar year to a different chair or co-chair of that school.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, can I clarify that question a little further? So what you're asking is that if a school council collaborates or has a guest speaker in, et cetera, what are the way of carrying that information forward?
Yes, that's one of the examples.
Okay, I would recommend that that information be captured in the school council minutes. So for example, if I'm thinking of a speaker who might come to the school and give, say, a program presentation, that the content or the overarching ideas of that speaker would be followed up in the next minutes of the school council meeting, so that that could be captured for following years would be a recommendation.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So if I conclude those responses from Elizabeth, that any information that contained on those emails specifically related to the co-chairs or chairs of that school should be recorded in the minutes, so it can be moved or transitioned to the next following years going forward. The other follow-up question I have is that would it be a possible proposed solution, since this is another few more months to implement this program, passing January 31st, 2024. Can co-chairs or chair of that school council can have MFA multi-factor authorization using the school council email addresses. So this kind of information still contained related to this email addresses, which has already been built for so many years in the past. Would it be possible?
Ms. Elizabeth?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. In consultation with Learning Technology Support Service, the challenge of having the same email addresses as we had previously is that those email addresses are shared. So in the fact that they are shared and not individualized is the difficulty. And when you're adding multi-factor authentication, my understanding is to an email address, is that it goes to one phone number or one, if you're having a shared email address, then that would not be possible. That's the reason for an individualized email address. I think the minutes to respond to your initial question would be the best way to capture that information from year to year. If there were anything else that the school council wanted to contribute at year end, there's also the annual report, which is a mandate of the Ministry of Education that all school councils must complete. And it should have for example, any special events that the school council hosted on there, as well as any speakers, such as a program speaker, so that with a combination of an annual report and the minutes, that those things should be adequately captured.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I just would like to propose a suggestion, Madam Chair. In this regard, in the near future, if it's possible, can be done to add more FAQs aligning to this memo, the school council email addresses, so that it will eliminate or comfort some or most of the school council members in different schools in PDSB. So I just would like to suggest or request for that, if possible.
Ms. Elizabeth, is that something that the board can look into?
We can certainly look into that. We will let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Any more questions from the committee online or in person?
Real Chair, I'd like to add some comments. So I have been in my Middlebury Public School councils for 3 years. We have very active school council. This year we have 8 parent members, but we are not doing a very good job in terms of the meeting minutes record, and we haven't uploaded anything onto our Middlebury Public School homepage yet. I'm aware that we have the Ontario Regulation 612 to require all the school councils to keep the meeting minutes for 4 years. But this is my 3rd year in the school council. We still couldn't find anything in terms of that. But still, our school council is doing what they can do in the current year. But in terms of the recording and something similar like that, we're not doing it. So I'm aware that even we are required by law to do it, but still we may do not have the ability, or some school council maybe even don't know the existence of this Ontario Regulation 612. So my comment is, When we don't have the many minutes, that means we are losing everything that we have done for the past year in the school council. And when we present to the personal school council email account, we may face the same problem in the future too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elizabeth, is there a way for, or do we have a way overseeing who takes care of the school council meeting to do minutes?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. That's exactly why we're having a great start at 7 o'clock tonight. So a great start is an invitation for all new school council members and those who are returning to find out about Regulation 612, Policy 61, which is our school board policy for school councils, and also to much easier to read is the school council resource guide. So we'll be highlighting that resource as well tonight. They're all available on the webpage for Peel, and we strongly advise that school council chairs and principals work collaboratively to ensure that minutes are completed. I would speak to your school council chair and also to your principal to make sure that those minutes are being completed, that you have a secretary as a possible executive position that takes the minutes. That's an optional executive position, but it is important, and it is the mandated way to keep those records.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
Through you, Chair, I just have a clarification. Since we are all, this is a new committee, and since we have also a new superintendents and coordinating principals, I just want to share something because I've been on this committee for quite a few years now. And what I had observed was that people from the PIC committee who were no longer on the committee would still be on the email list. So I just am bringing this up to, for your cognizance that take a look at the new emails to check and see that we don't have any from the past who are no longer members of our committee, of the current committee. So, just sharing it. Thank you.
Elizabeth, you want to address this trustee Benjamin question?
Thank you. Yeah, just thank you and noted trustee Benjamin. Thank you very much.
Item, well, thank you. No more questions from online community members, committee members. Sorry. There's no more question. I'm asking, is there a mover and a seconder to receive this information?
I do.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. All in favor, and it's carried. Item number 5.4, program subcommittee. We have no information at this time, so we will skip. Just a second. Go ahead, Ms. Elizabeth.
Chair Brooks. Chair Brooks, is it possible that we request members for the program subcommittee so that we can go ahead and begin the process for programs in order to be responding in a timely way to schools? Sure. Can we request members for that committee?
Can we request the members are here? Oh, we have Shazia and
I
then,
would like to read.
okay. So 5.4, we'll go ahead, the programs.
Sorry, I am a bit new to this. I'm not sure what this, I would like to be a member, but could you explain further what this grant is all about?
Thank you, and through your chair, with my pleasure. So the program is the Parent Reaching Out grant. The Ministry of Education provides a base amount of $1,500 to each school board, in addition to $500 to each school in order to engage parents in meaningful ways throughout the school year. There is an application process for the program. And what we need to do is make sure that the funds are distributed. Apparently this is not usually a subcommittee, but something the entire group works on together. I don't have any preference personally, but is there another meeting that we could hold in order to work through the program?
So thanks, Elizabeth, for the question. We will be looking at the agenda, the dates that have been set for meetings, and alternating meetings can be an opportunity for subcommittees as well as larger committees to work together. And that could be one of the items that are reviewed and tackled during the alternate dates.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Hart.
Can I have a mover, a seconder, please, to close up this information?
Thank you.
Thank you. A seconder? Thank you. It's approved and carried.
Our next item is board updates and reports. I would like to request Lisa Althamite to provide any updates.
Good evening, everyone. Pulling up my camera. And through you, Vice Chair or Co-Chair, it's my pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Associate Director, my name is Associate Director Camille Logan, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening and just to provide a couple of board updates. And I know that we were unable to be together at our last meeting as a result of the opportunity for families to engage for parent-teacher interviews. And so I know that those interviews went well, had an opportunity to actually be visiting schools on that day. And I know that many of the schools were very happy and delighted to welcome families. And I hope that those of you who had an opportunity to meet with the teachers and hear about the progress of your children, one of the things that I would also like to highlight for the updates is in regards to our kindergarten strategy. We have a new kindergarten strategy, and I'd like to share a little bit about that. So while kindergarten is not mandatory for 4 and 5-year-old children, research shows that it gives children a solid foundation for future learning. The kindergarten recruitment strategy highlights how PDSB offers distinct advantages to children and families participating in the program, including developing a sense of belonging, promoting well-being, developing foundational literacy, and developing and applying critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and exploring the world through natural curiosity. So our theme this year is we are adopting a slogan that's called Play, Wonder, Learn, and our theme that you'll see throughout schools is called Play, Spark, Learning. So we are encouraging as many of our new young learners to be part of the exciting opportunity to engage in early years in the Peel District School Board. And families will be seeing many of the signs that you'll see in our community that will also be encouraging families to join the Peel District School Board. So we encourage you as PIC members to also remind members of your school council that kindergarten registration has started, and it will resume after the break. And we really want to ensure that we have as many of our young learners in our communities having an opportunity to engage in our schools. The other highlight that I'd like to share is the work that's happening in our schools with regards to literacy and numeracy. As you know, and you would be hearing in our schools and communities the significance of the impact on student achievement along with well-being. And we see the two being linked, given that when we know that students have a strong sense of belonging and well-being, that will also support the foundation for learning. So we are fortunate this year to have a new structure where we have what is called literacy coaches in all of our schools. And the literacy coaches are supporting in K-3 And they are working closely with students and modeling effective learning instruction for our educators and really trying to get very clear instructional strategies to support improved literacy instruction. So we have a set of schools that have been identified that are priority schools that have the literacy coaches, and we're really seeing improved growth in our youngest learners around developing strong foundational literacy skills. Our numeracy coaches are supporting our middle and secondary schools, and those particular coaches are focused on numeracy, and again, looking at really ensuring that we have strong instructional strategies that are developing and supporting our students to develop strong numeracy skills that will support them as they move through and into secondary schools. The other piece that I'd like to just highlight, I know there was a couple of questions that some of our members asked around the PIC bylaws. And if you'll recall, the last time that I had shared a little bit of an update with regards to PIC, I shared that we had a mediation for last year's PIC. And one of the recommendations was to ensure that the PIC bylaws and terms of reference were updated. And so, and that they were updated by an external party. And so they're almost ready for completion. So once they're ready for completion, there'll be an opportunity for the PIC bylaw committee to review those the bylaws and also the terms of reference, and to see what the recommendations are and to make some decisions about next steps. So we'll be able to communicate through the chair when there's possibilities for that subcommittee to come together and those members of the subcommittee to begin that process that you're doing that.
Thank you, Kamel. Are there any questions from the members of the committee?
I have questions for you, Chair. I'd just like to find out how does the numeracy skills, how do parents or students who are needing this assistance, how do they access it in school?
The literacy coaches are assigned to a set of schools that have been determined. And so it's basically they're supporting in specific classrooms in the schools. So it's all designed basically by the schools, and the schools are organizing which classrooms the literacy coaches will be supporting, because it's not necessarily assigned to a particular student, it's assigned to a classroom to be working with students and to build capacity in the school. That answer your question?
Yes, you did. Regarding the middle schools, the numeracy aspect of it, is it the same, or is it a particular classroom that you've assigned it to, or is it for individuals who are in need of this assistance?
Each school will look at how they assign the coaches somewhat differently, but they will just basically identify whether or not particular students may need a particular area of focus around numeracy, but there isn't necessarily specific students. It's not sort of an intervention approach, if that's what you're asking, but it's basically designed to support in the classroom and to support the students and support the teachers, and also to build capacity so that we have improved instruction and numeracy across the district.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Through your chair, I'd like to ask Associate Director Dr. Logan one question regarding the parent-teacher interview. If I remember correctly, we have 3 progress reports for each student every school year, right? But the parent-teacher interview was arranged just behind the first progress report. I'd like to know why couldn't we put at the end of the year, that is after the 3rd progress report, that when teacher knows more information about the student and have more information to share with the parents. But when they arrange the parent teacher interview in November, the school just starts for 2 months, and it takes a long time. Now I don't think that 2 months is enough for the teacher to know students better, comparing to the end of the school year in June. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and through your chair. And I would say that the purpose of the progress report is just that, to help parents have a sense as to how their child is doing along through the learning, so that that way it's not that they get to the end of the year and they learn that their child may be doing very strongly in one particular area and they weren't necessarily aware, or doing not so well in another area and so that there's no support and growth. And it also helps to build relationships between the educator and the family, and helping and one of the things that we'll be talking about later is a significant parent engagement. And parents are the first teachers. Our parents know the children best. And this provides an opportunity very early in the year for parents to get to know the teacher and for the teacher to ask questions about, the learning of the child, and to build that relationship and to learn from the parents maybe some strategies, areas of interest that will also help and support the learning. So those are opportunities throughout the year. And although we have set times in the year when parents typically will be meeting teachers around the reporting periods, we always encourage parents, if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about what's happening in the classroom, always reach out to the teacher, ask questions, and set up those opportunities to build relationships with the teachers. You don't necessarily have to even wait at those set times. Those are formal times, obviously, to ensure that those opportunities happen, but those opportunities are available regularly between families and the teacher.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from committee members or online participants?
I have a question, Madam Co-Chair. So first is about just second the check what Ben said. It's being observed, being a parent of the PDSB, that we have a great parent-teacher interview during the progress report, early stages, and then you have a great point, significance of those. I'm not going to take anything out from there, but context. But being a parent is very important. Once the session is ending, which is June, is being seen and is being observed various times that the report card is coming, and there's a PD day, maybe not a PD day, and the school ends, and most of the time parents do not get opportunity to connect with the school, to teachers, to get the feedback, to get the insight of their child or student. It doesn't mean that we don't have opportunity during the whole school year. Take it. I will not take that back. Absolutely. It's always available. But being a formal time set settings, specific time, and it's very important being a parent. If those can be done 2 weeks prior to the session, just proposing or suggesting that, so parents have enough time to schedule a meeting, and teachers also expect that it's supposed to happen instead of it's happening on the second last day of the session or the last day of the session. So what's your comments or what's your insight on that, please?
And I guess my insight would be that, different parents have different needs in terms of what you've expressed. And some parents are very happy to receive an opportunity to speak after they actually see the report card. So parents are different in terms of what they would like to have in terms of what you've articulated. And so I encourage you to set up the opportunity, if you prefer, to have the opportunity to meet with a classroom teacher prior to that time. You have an opportunity to do that.
Sorry for my ignorance, but being a parent, is bylaw states anything, just for my own knowledge, or for others maybe, that one report card should be arrived to the families so they have enough opportunity to connect with the school teachers?
In terms of when we do the reporting?
Like how early they should be communicating report cards to the families so they have enough time before the session ends or the semester changes to connect with the specific teacher, or they want to connect with all teachers.
And we encourage regular communication between families and home for teachers. And if you're finding that that's not necessarily your experience, then we always encourage families to reach out to the teacher. And if you're finding that that regular dialogue may not be occurring the way that you'd like, you can always provide that feedback also to the principal, who can help to support any communication happen in a different pace, if that's what you're looking for, or in a particular way, you can always have that conversation with the principal as well.
And just to add a question back to your earlier topic about, may I,
Yeah.
Madam Chair? So I love the initiative or idea about the, literacy coaches. Can you please comment or share anything that is all the parents, families, school councils aware of this program initiative that's happening? And just to add on Allison's point that, so they can seek out those information if it's available to their school. And how's being allocated to certain schools, certain classes, those kind of information.
And I guess what I would say is that it's really important for schools to be sharing what's happening in their schools. And sharing any supports that are coming from the school board. These things are there to be providing and supporting. And I would hope that any schools that have literacy coaches or have math facilitators are sharing how those resources from the board are being actualized in the school, because they are there as additional supports and they are things that are there to support our children. So I would hope, and we will also encourage schools to be sharing that, and perhaps they're sharing it within the context of the staff, but also they should be sharing it with you as families in the schools.
Thank you for the details. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any other questions?
Sure, Co-Chair, can I go in?
Sure.
Ms. Camille, I have a question around what age group gets those literacy classes and how are the students drafted for those classes?
Yeah, happy to answer your question. And I would say basically our K-3 coaches are identified. We have 35 and they are identified with the specific schools. And basically they've looked at specific needs in those schools, whether it be around report card results or EQAO, other assessment features that identify that these are priority schools that have a particular area of focus. And that's where those schools have been identified, and that's where those supports are being offered.
Sorry, my follow-up, is it for all age group?
K-3.
K-3? Are we looking at anything for the high schools, middle school?
And yes, in the middle school, so the middle schools have math facilitators who are offering support around numeracy and also supporting through what we call as de-streaming, so that the opportunity is, yes, it may be a numeracy focus, but we're also looking at other areas where we can also offer support. And so the support doesn't necessarily, as I said, have to happen through, we've got these additional supports that are there, which is fabulous, but you also know that there are resources that are within the school. Whether they be like in the high school, there's the student success teachers who offer specific support for our secondary students who may need additional support. We have our guidance counselors and so forth. So all of our schools have regular supports that are there and available, but these are additional supports so that we can provide that additional need, whichever schools have been identified for priorities.
Thanks for your response.
I have a question regarding the dip in provincial EQA mathematics for grade 6. So what are the reasons and what are the next steps for improving those results? And there is a report in Globe and Mail regarding the international mathematics competition in Canada. The students in Canada scored very little as compared to other countries like Singapore, Japan. So what we can do to improve those situations?
Thank you, and through you, Chair-elect. With regards to looking at numeracy, I'm not able to answer the question with regards to looking at the international results with regards to Canada, as you've raised. But I would say that in terms of numeracy, the province of Ontario has recognized that we know that there needs to be improvement across the entire province, which is why there was additional funding that was provided for schools that was specific to math. And actually, perhaps I can turn over some of it to Superintendent Raja, who is the superintendent who is actually leading our math work. And would you like to share and provide some information in terms of the work that we are doing around mathematics as a result of the additional funding that was provided for all school boards to have math facilitators and also to have math leads? And Superintendent Raja is one of our math leads. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Associate Director Dr. Logan, through you, Board Chair Tala. So with as Dr. Logan highlighted, so we have been funded to sort of review our internal and external data. So that's our school report card data and the ministry EQO data. Based on that, we have placed, as Dr. Logan suggested, at priority schools, the math facilitators based on the ministry funding. So there's an ongoing monitoring and achievement plans to improve our student achievement. That's the mandate of the ministry from the announcement this school year. So this is our priority for 2023 and 24 school year. So this is an ongoing process. Recently, we have created a math action plan for the school board that involves, monitoring our current practices and implementing, targeted practices to school. So we are hoping to have improvement plans, and also around your comment about math contest. I'm former secondary math teacher. Regularly, our teachers and the schools do encourage our students to participate in math contest, and we have achieved high level achievement at, for example, the Waterloo University math contest, the secondary school level. So there's an ongoing process, and we'll continue to monitor and enhance those practices. In terms of the communication, we are in the process of drafting all families' communication around math achievement plan. That's part of the program. So you can expect to see updated resources on our school website, as well as communications with other math tool and the digital tool. Those are all in progress. So you will see them released to our community soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any question from online participants? Seeing none. Thank you, Dr. Logan.
Through your co-chair.
Sorry.
Actually, I have a question regarding the online participant. I was informed that online participants couldn't ask questions on Teams, and I don't know why. I think we need some technical support. She mentioned when she asked questions, when she raised hand, the video paused instead of showing the hand.
Yes.
So,
Can you ask that member to put it in the chat and then we could read out the question?
oh, actually, it's not a member. It's a parent member from some school council.
Sorry, if I could just pass it to you, Catherine Locke here.
Thank you for the question through you, co-chairs. The invitation is for the members only, the invitation to the actual Teams meeting, if they're participating online. Parent members who may be watching or school council members that may be watching through the live stream are not able to comment. The PIC meetings are not for commentary from members of the public. It is for an opportunity for the members of PIC to have discussion, debate, and make decisions in relation to the business of PIC. School councils who have concerns that they may want addressed by PIC can reach out to the chair to be have an item added to the agenda, or may reach out to Elizabeth, who is working with school councils this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So is there a mover and a seconder for this information? The seconder? Thank you. All in favor? So it is carried. Thank you for providing the update. So our next agenda for today is item number 7, communications. So are there any communication items to share at this time? Seeing none,
I have a question. I don't know what communications was intended to be, but I have a question, a couple of questions around communications.
Okay, go ahead.
So one internal and one question external. The agenda that is presented
PIC members haven't had an opportunity to weigh in on that agenda and review it and provide input on items for the agenda. So going forward, can it be sent to PIC members at least a week in advance of it being posted online? Because when we received it this time, it was already posted online. My understanding is other than the co-chairs, nobody has had a chance to provide any input on the agenda. So if there are items that we'd like to raise, we currently don't have an opportunity to include it. So I'd like to ask if we can do that.
Can Catherine answer this question?
Thank you. Thank you for the question through you, Madam Co-Chairs. The agenda is developed in collaboration between the co-chairs and staff. So if there are items that you would like to have added to the agenda or discussion, I would suggest reaching out to the co-chairs in advance. The agenda is set and is to be distributed to the public and to the members at the same time, a minimum of 5 days before the meeting. Try to get it out a week, but it's a minimum of 5 days ahead of time. So I would suggest that if you have items that you want added to the agenda, have those discussions with the co-chairs, maybe 2 weeks at least in advance of the agenda so that they can be worked on there. One of the reasons for that is that there can be created enough opportunity for staff to be able to be prepared to address whatever the issues are that may be raised on the agenda. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then maybe this will be a PIC discussion that we have prior to with the chairs and with the committee prior to, because in the past, the PIC committee has come together to discuss agenda items before formalizing it through the chairs and the board before it gets things. So maybe this is something that we can discuss for the agenda items going forward. Okay. The second question I have is another communications piece. This is more external. I have questions around the communications around the affirming Muslim students' identities and dismantling anti-Islamophobia event that is taking place. So just for PIC's background, the anti-Islamophobia strategy was developed in response to the ministry directives that came out, the ministry report that came out in 2020 that identified a number of issues with equity, predominantly anti-Black racism, but also Islamophobia was identified as a major concern. Through that, the anti-Islamophobia strategy was launched in October of 2021, and here we are now. Excuse me, January 2024 is when we are going to have the launch event of the strategy. And for those who you don't know, the original event was supposed to be on November 7th. It was postponed. Communication to the community was through social media, and commenting was turned off, not giving families an opportunity to ask questions around it. It's no secret that I've been asking questions about communication surrounding this. It was just mentioned in the meeting right now that the All Families message had gone out. And I was waiting for this message to come out to see if there was mention of the dismantling anti-Islamophobia strategy event in January, and there is not. My understanding is that there was a memo that went out yesterday to principals to disseminate the information down to the communities. However, the message, the all family monthly messages that go out is an opportunity to reach parents directly. And here we have missed the opportunity. The registration closes on December 15th. That is giving families 1 week to register. So I would like to know what the communication plan is to disseminate this information to families. Will this be posted on social media? What is the plan for that? And the board really needs to understand that there is a lot of distrust coming from the community. I've said this many times. The anti-Islamophobia strategy at the Peel board, we really should be proud that, we're the first board that has a strategy that is, being implemented. However, we're not seeing the movement on it. And I'm just looking at the guiding principles that came out earlier this year in January. And one of the guiding principles is ongoing action and communication and adherence to the strategy. It's number 4. action to dismantle anti-Islamophobia must be prioritized and be ongoing.
Sorry, and I don't want to interrupt you, Shazia, because I do appreciate what you're sharing, but this isn't a matter that would fall under communications. And so it would be something that you would, put in for a motion to be discussed at PIC rather than fall under the purview of this item that's on the agenda.
Right, so because the agenda wasn't discussed with PIC members prior to, there hasn't been an opportunity to provide this sort of communication. And to be honest, it's just because the family's message, all families' message came out today, just now, and this huge item is missing that I would like an answer.
I would be happy to take that conversation with you after the closed session when the meeting comes to an end, as it's not an item on the agenda for discussion today, and it doesn't fall under the scope of this item. So
it's again, we have communications on the agenda. There's also no longer a new business section on the agenda to be able to ask for members to be able to ask questions. Therefore, this is the best place that I have seen to be able to raise it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it is a PIC issue. PIC has directly been contacted about this because they consulted on the strategy. PIC's name is on the strategy and documented. That is giving the community a sense that we have some sort of accountability to this, which we know, we may or may not, whatever, but there is a perception out there. And the communication to date has not been clear and continues to not be clear. We're not sending this message loud and clear or widely, and this will, for the next meetings going forward, consider a motion to, perhaps look at PIC being involved in more of the equity directives, being able to look at opportunities to provide input into, what's happening at the board, because this directly does impact how we are able to answer questions that come from our constituents. That is the reason why I'm bringing it up as communications part of this meeting, because there is no other opportunity for me to be able to do so. But there needs to be answers. The answers need to be public, and they need to be disseminated widely to the community.
thank you for that feedback. And, we can speak about this after the adjournment of the meeting.
So can we have Shazia's question for our next agenda?
So we can discuss the agenda at the meeting in future weeks as we're setting the agenda for the next date.
Thank you. So our next item for today is committee member motions for consideration. So are there any motions for consideration at this time?
For you, co-chair. So I'd like to ask, can we put our PIC email account on the PIC website of PDSB? That means, for example, my PIC email account is pic.ben.chen@posb.com. Can we just put this information on our PIC website so that any parent member who wants to reach out to us can see this information and send the email to us?
Through you, Chair, thank you for the question, Ben, and that's something that we could do. But this, again, isn't a motion and wouldn't be the forum to raise that question, but that request we can do.
Thank you.
Our next item for today is committee member notice of motion. Are there any notices of motions at this time?
Madam Co-Chair, prior point at this point, I would like to ask you, including business updates, new business updates, or any urgent matter, would it be fall under these criteria? And if it does, would it be possible?
Thank you for the question, and through you, co-chairs, this wouldn't be the place that new items would be positioned. There's a process around submitting motions, and so this wouldn't be the way in which we would get to that piece. But I think happy to take that back and look at a way in which new business can be brought forward through the committee.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, everyone. Our last item for tonight is adjournment. Is there a mover and seconder for motion of adjournment? Seconder.
Before I do, are we deciding our next meeting today? Not part of the agenda.
We communicate that after.
Thank you, Madam.
Majority. Through the chair, the dates for the actual PIC meetings, is that what you're inquiring about? Yeah, so the PIC meeting dates are already determined at the end of the school year, so in June, and they've already been communicated, so they're actually on the PIC site. And we'll make sure that all members have the dates, but the next meeting is already scheduled for January 18th.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe.
And sorry, just as a follow-up, the intention was to use that meeting date as a subcommittee meeting date that was going to be communicated, and then alternating meetings would be full committee and then subcommittee meetings, which we'll update on the website.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Can we move for adjournment?
Yes, sir.
Is there a mover?
Yes, I.
And you have seconded. All in favor? So we stand adjourned. Thank you for attending the Parent Involvement Committee meeting.